Instagram stories for Saturday, July 27th. This is the weekend edition of the Instagram stories, and I'm Daniel Hill. I have not done an episode for the past few days. I was actually on vacation, and I had this idea that I could make an episode while I was on vacation, and that did not happen. So let's get back into the show. Today's episode features an interview with Jenn Herman. If you're not familiar with her, she's well known in the social media space. She has written the book, Instagram for Dummies. I've seen her speak at Social Media Marketing World a number of times. She is just a wealth of knowledge. We get into not only strategies around Reels, but also strategies for stories and how to best use your time, if it's limited, to make the most of what you can do on Instagram. Here's the interview with Jenn. Today on the show, we have Jenn Herman. Jenn, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Jenn, you are a great supporter of the show. I know I've had the chance to interview you in the past, so I really appreciate you being willing to come on again and talk.
Of course. I love what you do with this and these little bite-sized insights into the world of social media, and in our case, Instagram. It's a great conversation.
For people who might not be familiar with you, can you please tell us who you are and what it is that you do?
Absolutely. So my name is Jenn Herman, as you mentioned. I am the world's leading expert on Instagram marketing. If you ask ChatGPT who to learn Instagram from, they're going to tell you to learn from me.
Really? I didn't know that. Okay, I want to try. Go ahead. I'm sorry for interrupting. Please continue.
Go type in who are the best people to learn Instagram from, and it will tell you it's me. And I actually say that because I know that it will produce that result. And this is not like, it's not unbiased or it's not a biased response. It's now unbiased. ChatGPT said it, not just me. But yeah, it's one of these things where I've been doing Instagram and teaching Instagram for now almost 11 years. And it's something that I'm passionate about. I love Instagram as a user. I love the platform and I always have. And so I started diving into how to use it strategically. And 11 years ago, when I started this, it was definitely a different platform. It has evolved so much over the years, and it's allowed me to continue to do what I do and to help businesses of all sizes, from entrepreneurs and small businesses all the way up to global and international enterprises, figure out how to use Instagram strategically. Now, of course, it's not always going to be the same depending on your type of business and size of your business and all these sorts of things, but there are so many practical strategies that businesses can use that we often don't think about with Instagram. So that is my passion, to share that with the world and make sure that more people can actually find success on the platform.
I didn't hear you mention the book. Do you want to mention that as well?
Sure. Yes. I've written Instagram for Dummies and also Instagram for Business for Dummies, 2 editions of both. So it is something that, yes, I have literally written the book on Instagram, you could say. We're very proud of those books. And of course, they are a great deep dive if it's something that you are getting started with in the world of Instagram. If you're familiar with it, but maybe not familiar with it from a business perspective, grabbing one of those books will really walk you through all the nuances, everything from stories to reels, photos, following, and all that sort of stuff.
Excellent. There are so many things that I want to ask you about and get into, but one of the things that you had already said about how Instagram has fundamentally changed so much over the past 13, 14 years or however long it's been. One of the things that is a fundamental shift is to video, right? And needing to make reels, and whether you choose to repurpose those reels on TikTok or YouTube Shorts or other platforms, that is definitely the direction that the algorithms are rewarding and want to see more of, is video content. So reels being their own, I'll say, platform in a certain sense. Yeah, their own, that's a good way to put it. The length of reels is something that I've heard you explain before. And I was wondering if you can just give us the strategic explanation that I've heard you do in the past, because I think that really helps. If you know you should make reels, but you're not sure how long to make them or what they should consist of, I think your explanation is fantastic for this.
Thank you. And yeah, it's one of these things where everyone says, do more reels, right? But what do you do with reels? And if you've ever listened to me speak, if you've ever been around me, you know that brevity is not my strong suit. So me doing a 15-second video is nearly impossible. I cannot say things in 15 seconds. I always say, if you can say it in 10 words, I can say it in 100. So for me, when they said do reels, I was like, okay, you give me 60 seconds, I'll do a 60-second reel. You give me 90 seconds, I'll do a 90-second reel. I'm going to give you as much as I can with the time that you give me to speak. And that's one of the things that I think a lot of people do, right? They're like, well, I can do a 90-second reel, then I'll do a 78-second reel and boom, wash my hands, I did a reel. And that's not wrong, but it's not the whole story. So we need to think about how reels are shared on the platform. And what we need to realize is that short videos under 15 seconds are the videos that typically show up in Explore. They're the ones that typically show up in recommendations and suggested posts. So if you're only creating 60-second or longer videos, you're not showing up in Explore. You're not showing up in recommendations. And that means you're not getting the full advantage of reels to grow your audience. So you really want to make sure that you're splitting your reels content into at least 2, ideally 3 different buckets. You're going to have to create reels that are under 15, at least under 15. You can go maybe 20 seconds, but that kind of 15 to 20-second mark is for super top of funnel. These are brand awareness. This is new eyeballs. There are no calls to action. There is nothing that you need to do in here to talk about who you are and what you do. It is just to get eyeballs on your content. Those mid-range, those kind of 15 or 20 seconds, upwards of about 45 seconds, those are going to be your mid-range that are going to both reach essentially unfollowers, non-followers, but people who have already seen your video. So they've seen your short 15-second videos and they're scrolling through the Reels feed. They're going to get suggested these slightly longer videos, not your 90-second videos, but these kind of 30 to 40-second videos are more likely to get shown to them as a repeat viewer, even though they're not following you. So these are where we can start to tell a little bit more about our brand, what we do, what our value is, a little bit more, probably still avoiding calls to action in these mid-range. Now, your longer videos, your videos over 45 seconds, upwards of 90 seconds, these are serving your existing audience. These are the ones that are people who know you, they're already following you, or they've seen a bunch of your videos. And now you can start putting in the value add. Now you can start putting in things related to your calls to action and the requests and the contact me or comment below to actually move through that conversion process. So you need all 3 of these, but for each individual purpose along your strategy.
That makes a ton of sense. And I think you're absolutely right. When it comes to those shorter, sort of 15 to 20-second reels, like you mentioned, I have personally experimented with B-roll, and I think that's something you may have done as well. Can you talk a little bit about that as a strategy for some of those shorter videos?
Yeah. So this is one of those things where, again, when you are talking, it is very hard to convey information in under 15 seconds, right? Just literally saying, here's my video, just took 2.5 seconds of your 15 seconds. So it's very hard to put actual audio into a 15 to maybe 20-second video. This is where those things like B-roll or just a footage of you, like I said, like you're sitting at your desk, you're typing away, or I'll do a lot where I just sit in my chair and I just nod my head and shrug my shoulders. And it's just a looping video of me not doing anything. I'm not saying anything, but it's a video. And so these short little blips of, like you said, B-roll or kind of ancillary type video content, and then you're going to slap text boxes over top of these. And the text is going to rotate relatively quickly, but in 15 seconds, you can put up all these text boxes that actually convey what would take you maybe 35, 40 seconds to say in actual verbiage out loud. But it has 2 benefits. One, you get more information into a shorter video. But if it's a high quality video, if it's something that's giving actual value in those text boxes, you increase the chances of people rewatching that video because the text is moving so fast that they go, I have to watch that again. I missed that clip. Or I just started to get it, but I want to grasp it better. I got to watch it again. And when you get repeat views, that is positive ranking algorithmically, not only for that viewer individually, but for your video as a whole. It shows value of quality content that people want to watch it multiple times.
I think that is the perfect explanation. And you're right. The rewatch is the key thing that you're trying to get in that scenario, because now the algorithm says, oh, this must be good. They're watching it multiple times. This must be something that should be shared with more people on the algorithm and so forth. I think for your perspective, saying this as someone who, I didn't say you were wordy, but you said you were wordy. I'm not going to, I don't see you as a very wordy person, but you had mentioned that earlier. But just to take that and say, okay, this is how you get a message across in 15 or 20 seconds, even if you are a wordy person. I think that's a really key strategy that a lot of people might not be thinking about. it does take a little bit of effort to either put that text on there, however you decide to have it, whether it flashes for a short time or whatever. But I think that effort is worthwhile. And that in repeated views and shares, that's how you know that strategy that you just described is working. So I think that's absolutely a fantastic way to approach it. We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about how to use B-roll strategically, and Jenn shares her strategy for stories. So stick around. Oh, hey, welcome back. We are continuing our interview with Jenn Herman.
One of the things that we see commonly in the space, and I don't love these videos, but they can work, is where people will take literally a 3 or 4 second video clip, right? That kind of B-roll footage. And what they do is they write a really long caption. And so what you're doing is you literally say, here's why I hate Reels, info and caption. And that's all the video says. And it just loops and loops. And you click to read the caption. And while you're reading that caption, that 3-second video has played 18 times, right? Like, so it's a strategy that a lot of people use. I don't personally love it because most people don't go to Reels to read. They don't want to watch a video and have to stop and open up a caption with all this white text on a looping video and read. It's not saying they can't work. It's just not ideal under most circumstances. So it's something worth testing. If it works for your audience, great. If you do this once a month among all your other reels, okay, go for it. But don't become over-reliant on that where you're aiming so much for the replay views, because if people aren't reading the caption, they're never getting your message. So you want to make sure that you aren't overly relying on captions on your reels.
I love that point. One of the things that Instagram has been stressing lately, and I've seen Adam Mosseri say this multiple times now, is the importance of shares. Have you been recommending this sort of real strategy for shares as well? Or is there something different that you recommend when it comes to shares?
This is one of those, it's not right, but it's not wrong. So shares are always and always have been valuable, right? We can go back to the Facebook days. We can go back to Pinterest days. We can go back to every other platform. Shares are valuable because they show that we saw something and think it's of value to tell other people about, that we want to put it on our own profile, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn. Shares have always been a valuable metric to show that content is worthy of more people. Now, Instagram isn't not the same, but it is different because I feel like when Adam Mosseri says these things, it's always with a veiled intent. And their biggest thing, like when you share on Instagram, it's either going to go to your stories or it's going to go to your DMs, right? So you can't share it to your grid. You're not reposting it to your own natively. So when he's talking about this, he's talking about shares being valuable, absolutely, but it's into direct messages. And Instagram is really pushing us into direct messages. So I feel like this is one of his ways of being like, oh, shares are highly valuable, so that marketers will try and be like, let's create shareable content because they want people sharing them into the DMs. So I feel like it's a self-licking ice cream cone situation, right? Like they're trying to get people to do what they want them to do by creating the environment that they want. But that being said, yes, they are valuable because when someone does share them to your DMs, and so hypothetically, Daniel, if I share something to you on my DMs and you respond back to me, you and I now have a conversation, which in the Instagram world is a one-to-one relationship. And when the moment we say relationship, my content ranks higher in your feed. Your content ranks higher in my feed because we have a relationship. We clearly want more from each other because we're in the DMs. So from a marketing perspective, when people are sharing your content, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to show up higher in each other's feeds unless you're doing it mutually. But if you share one of my posts to one of your friends, to somebody you know, you're fostering that relationship with them and telling Instagram simultaneously, Jenn's content is worthy. That friend is now more likely to come over and check out my content, right? Which could invite them into my DMs and help. So shares have this like reciprocal value more so than a direct value. It's more of how they work over time. which I know is a very long, complicated answer to what was a very simple question.
No, but you're absolutely right. And it's also a signaling thing, right? Because
Yes.
if you and I share content back and forth, now your stories are more likely to show up at the front of my stories because you and I just recently interacted. And what are we
Yes.
going to talk about next? Oh, I see that you went to the park. Now I might ask you a question about, right? So it's using it as a
Yes.
signal as well, just like you described.
And so, yes, it's definitely, I keep going back to shares are obviously valuable. Saves to me are equally as valuable. I have a ton of saves on my content. I share tips and tactics and strategy, right? So when I get 10 shares on a post, I'm like, meh. When I get 93 shares on a post, that's great, right? But I'm also looking at my saves. I'm looking at it going, did I get 10 saves? Did I get 93 saves? Like if I had 93 saves, that's highly valuable content. And to me, that's almost more valuable than a share, just in terms of my content, right? Because sharing it means you're telling a friend about it, you're telling somebody else about it, but that could be fun. That could be my cat or dog running around. But if you're saving my content, if you're going to the effort of saying, I want to retain this and come back to this information
Yeah,
later,
that's a good point. That's actually a very good point.
business
Yeah,
wise, saves
right.
are more valuable to me. Algorithmically, shares can be more valuable for the ancillary reasons of all the DMs. But from a business perspective and for the type of content I create, saves are more valuable as a metric.
If you could see my face, this is my thinking face for those of you watching this on YouTube. No, but you're absolutely right. And from a business perspective, although shares are important, but that could be because it was very funny or very entertaining. But if someone saved it, that means they absolutely want to come back to it, whether you have a restaurant or whether it's an
Mm-hmm.
actionable tip or a life improvement hack or whatever. That means people said, I want to remember this and I want to be sure that I see this again. Therefore, I will save it. That's an excellent point. Wow, that actually made me forget my next questions. Um, so, for someone who might be overwhelmed by the amount of things that they feel they have to do on Instagram while they run their own business, and here they have to have some kind of strategy, maybe they don't have the budget to hire a team to do this for them, what would you say would be a good use of the limited time and energy they might have in order to use Instagram well?
So typically what I tell people is if you are struggling with Instagram, maybe you feel like your reach is down, your engagement is down, maybe you are coming back to Instagram after a long time, maybe you just feel like you've plateaued and you just don't know what's working anymore. What I typically tell people is you have to reboot your Instagram profile. And the best way to do this is to stop your current content strategy. Now, again, this is assuming your current content strategy is not working for you. If it's working for you, ignore everything I'm about to tell you. This is for people if it's not working right now. You want to reboot. And to reboot, what you want to do is you want to move to ideally 3 posts a week in the feed. One's going to be a single photo, one's going to be a carousel, one is going to be a reel. You're not posting every single day. There's absolutely no need to post every single day. And in fact, most small businesses should not be posting every single day, regardless of how far along you are in your strategy. It
Wait,
actually
can I just ask? Yeah, why?
it causes your content to compete with itself. So again, the
Good
way
point.
the algorithm works, Instagram doesn't hide any of your content. They just merely rank it lower and lower depending on the likelihood that someone's going to interact with it. So your average audience is not on Instagram 5 times a day, every day of the week. They're typically not even on Instagram every day of the week. So if they log on today at 7 a.m. and you post today at 9 a.m., right? So they're not going to see your post from today and they're not going to come back until Wednesday, right? So assuming today's Monday, it's not, but let's assume it's Monday. And so they're not coming back till Wednesday. You've posted now after they came in on Monday. You're going to post again on Tuesday. You might even post again on Wednesday before they come on. There's now 3 posts of yours that the Instagram algorithm has to rank alongside every other post they've missed, every ad that they have to push out to them, all the recommended posts. What are the chances one viewer is going to see all 3 of your posts? Slim to none. More
Hmm.
likely, they might see one. Even if they're your diehard follower, they might see 2. So Instagram has to choose which of those 3 posts to put higher in their feed. You're letting algorithms decide which of your posts are more valuable to that audience. So you're literally making your content compete with itself if you're posting every single day. Whereas if you post once every other day, you've already cut that in half. So if they're only logging on every other day, they're only missing one of your posts, not 3 of your posts.
We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, Jenn is going to explain exactly how often you should be posting to Instagram and why. So stick around. Oh, hey, welcome back. Jenn is now going to explain how often you should be posting to Instagram and why.
So ideally, if you like, the small businesses in general don't have enough high quality content to post every single day. You're just hurting yourself by doing it. Don't make the algorithms choose. Just post the best content and post less of it, which goes back to the 3 times a week reboot. So if you can do 1 feed, 1 reel, and 1 carousel, and you want to do this for about 6 to 8 weeks, this is going to rejuvenate your content flow, and it's going to tell you what your audience actually wants. Do they like feed posts more than they like reels? Do they love reels and don't really like feed posts or photos? The carousels give you double the chance for exposure, right? So most people know if you log on and you see a carousel and you don't interact with it, the next time you log in, you see the carousel again, second photo in the slide. So save those carousels for when you have the bigger calls to action, the push, the sales posts, those types of things, to make sure you have more chance of people seeing them. But so if you do this 3 posts a week, every week for about 6 to 8 weeks, it recalibrates you out of where you were doing 5 reels a week or where you were doing only photos. And it's going to let your audience see a fresh new batch of content. It's going to allow you to figure out what your audience wants. And then you can start to look at your strategy going forward. Now, if you're one of those people and you're like, oh my God, Jenn wants me to post 3 times a week for 6 to 8 weeks. She is crazy. That is way too much content. That's okay. You can do the same thing once a week, right? So this week you do a reel, the next week you do a carousel, the next week you do a feed post. Start all over again. Now, of course, in this case, you're going to do more than 8 weeks. You might do this for 3 months, but you're going to do 1 post a week, alternating the type of post for that 3-month period. It's going to give you the same outcome and same results just over a longer period of time, but without stressing you out in terms of your content overwhelm.
I love that strategy. There's 2 specific questions that I have about that strategy. Number 1, if they do it in 3 posts a week, 1 feed post, 1 reel, would you say to do it on the same day? Like they always do the reel on Monday and they always do the carousel on Wednesday. Is that part of your recommendation in terms of strategy? Oh, I actually did not think you were going to say that. Okay.
So I actually, again, this is one of these things you want to mix it up and you want to know when your audience is active, right? So we typically fall into, as marketers, the Monday, Wednesday, Friday. No, most of your audience is more active on the weekends. So you could, again, this is where scheduling tools, whether you're using the Meta Business Suite and their active scheduling tools, or you use a third-party tool that you pay for or whatever it is, but schedule that content to do Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. It could be Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It could be Monday, Friday, Sunday. Like you can choose the days, but you should really mix them up. If you have the opportunity before you start this, go into your Instagram insights, go to the followers section, and all the way down at the bottom, it's going to tell you time of day. Tap on that and it switches to day of the week. It may give you some insights and show you that your audience is more active on the weekends or on the weekdays or whatever it is. But for the most part, if you know your target audience, you know when they're active online. A working single mom is going to have a completely different online schedule than a college student, right? Like we're going to have very different behaviors if you are a corporate CEO versus someone who's on summer vacation from college, right? There's 2 totally different behaviors and different times and different days of the week and these sorts of things. So you probably know when your audience is active, and we do want to focus on those days, but mix it up. If you did a reel on Wednesday this week, do the reel on Friday next week. Don't keep it too consistent, because if your audience that loves reels isn't active on the weekdays and you're only posting reels on the weekdays, you're limiting the chance that they're going to see that on a weekend.
I love this strategy. The other question I had about your strategy that you're recommending is, how does stories fit into that? Would you say to just share the feed posts that you've made to your stories, do separate stories, do stories every day? Like, how are you fitting that into the strategy you're recommending?
I love that you asked that. Ideally, we want to do 1 story every single day. And that can be taking your feed post and sharing it to your story. It can be a simple behind the scenes. It can be a really quirky, fun video. It can be your life. Here's what I made for dinner tonight. Whatever it is, play with that. But ideally, 1 story every day. If you can do more, that's fine. But again, we're talking content overwhelm. posting 3 or 4 stories a day might be too much for you. But doing that every day, because again, stories only live for 24 hours. So ideally, if you're doing one every day, you're keeping content fresh for that 6 to 8 week period where, again, you can start to see, go look at those insights. When are people dropping off? What's getting the reactions? Are people doing the quick replies, which opens a DM, which invites the personal relationship? Are they just doing the heart to like it? Are they tapping forward? Do people love your at-home cooking videos? Or are they like, what does this have to do with your business? I hate these. Do they love seeing your dog? Or are they cat people and they really don't want to see your dog? You get to see this from your insights over that same kind of test period there where you can again turn around and be like, okay, we know what we're going to do more of in our stories. We're going to do tips, tutorials. We're going to stay away from the personal stuff. Or we're going to go all in on the personal stuff on our stories. And we'll occasionally share tip and tutorial in there. It gives you that bandwidth to figure out what your audience wants.
I love that. That's a fantastic strategy. And I'm looking forward to seeing how people who are listening to this implement it and then come back to both you and I with their feedback of how it's been going. So really looking forward to that. If you listened to this far in the interview, I'm going to give away 5 copies of Jenn's books. You pick the book, Instagram for Dummies or Instagram for Business for Dummies. Send me a DM with your address and we will connect and make that happen. So that's something that you can, yes, if you can continue to learn from Jenn's knowledge, that's going to be the way to do it. Jenn, what can we look forward to you creating in the near future and how can we follow on your journey?
So I've got a couple of things going on. One thing that related to the book environment, but I have a book. It's an ebook. You can grab it on my website. It's for hashtags. It is the ultimate guide to hashtags on Instagram because hashtags still matter. People don't think they do, but they're incredibly important for more reasons than people are typically aware of. And that's available for just $9 on my website. And it will literally walk you through everything you need to know about hashtags, including what happens if Instagram turns around and limits how many hashtags we have. So it's a good preparatory guide for that as well. And then
we'll link to it in the show notes so people can get there directly.
And then also I have a membership program, which is Profit Your Profile. And that's a membership community dedicated to Instagram marketing. We bring in a guest expert every month, in addition to a training with me every single month on topics related to Instagram or marketing in general. So we've had amazing guest experts, including photographers, copywriters, website developers, lawyers, copy editors. I think I already mentioned that. We've had a celebrity TV chef. We've had the head of Microsoft social media, the head of social media for Taylor Guitars. We've had amazing guests come in to teach Instagram and marketing in general. So if you want to really hone in and understand how that works, you can check out profityourprofile.com.
We will link to that in the show notes as well. Jenn, this has been fantastic having you on. Thank you so much for being willing to do this in chat.
Awesome. This was great. I love it.
Okay, that is going to do it for my interview with Jenn. Thank you so much for listening all the way to the end of the interview. Hopefully you found that information valuable and helpful, and you can incorporate the strategies that she recommended in some way in your own social media. As always, be sure to come back next time for more social media news, strategy, or other things you need to know.
Let me tell you a couple things that you should know about me. A product manager but do not have a bachelor's degree. But actually that's factually a fraction of me. Another fraction's posting content irregular and irrationally. Still probably won't get a job at the Gram. They forgot, they don't know, or don't care who I am. That's why you never see me at the parties and events. My lack of followers must make me irrelevant. Don't have a course, a book to sell to make a bag of grand. Not a social media marketer, don't represent any brands. Plain to see, don't have an agency, but I got a lot of spam. Just putting in my work without the glitz and glam. Won't catch me eating fish unless it's shrimp or clam. No six pack, no risk that there's a gym card in my hand. Don't have a full-time job, but I got a lot of plans. Stay plotting, dropping knowledge on TikTok and Instagram.
Let me ask you, and you can feel comfortable to answer this or not, but the content that you recommend people make for Instagram, do you recommend that they repurpose it directly to TikTok, or do you recommend a different strategy for that?
Oh, good question. In general, no, but I'm so guilty of doing it.
It's like a full-time job to create different content for each platform, and it's just mentally exhausting. Yeah.
So if you have to, what I typically recommend is if you can, and this obviously works better if you're doing like a single take video or if you're using other video editing tools, but where possible, make as much of that video outside of like the Instagram or TikTok platform. So do like your splicing, your editing and whatever, even your text box layovers if you have to. And
In
then you
CapCut
have
or
a
something
raw
similar.
file that you can put
Right.
onto Instagram, and a raw file you can put on YouTube Shorts, and a raw file you can put on TikTok. And then on each of those platforms, you add on a filter, you add on some music, like you can do some couple tweaks, you put in your caption. So you're tailoring it for each platform, and you don't have the Instagram logo on your TikTok videos. You don't have the TikTok logo on your Instagram videos. It's not always possible to do that, but yes, it is one of those things where if you can, keep it as native to each individual platform as possible while not creating a new unique video every single time.
Are you a CapCut user? Do you use CapCut or something similar?
I do not use CapCut. I honestly hate video editing. I absolutely despise it.
Same. I do not enjoy it. It's time intensive. That's really the thing I don't like about it. And no matter how long you spend on it, it could always be better. And after you post it, you always see, oh, I could have made this better. I could have made this part longer,
right,
this
that
part
splice
shorter.
was off,
Yeah. And it's just, and the amount of time it takes. I watched a video where Casey Neistat said it takes him 45 minutes to edit 15 seconds of video. And that made me feel a lot better because, okay, he's a master YouTuber. It takes me about that long. So I felt like, okay, I'm not that off. But just the time it takes and the mental, and even then when it's not perfect, it can be very frustrating.
Yeah, I would typically tell people, I'm a little bit better now just because the types of videos I do are typically like a one-take video. But if I'm doing editing, like significant editing on a video, it's 45 to 60 minutes for a reel. And that's, like I said, anywhere from 15 to 60 seconds. You're committing an hour to do it. They are major commitments. And it's not that I don't like video, but I can write. I'm so much more eloquent when I write. I'm so much more concise when I write. And so for me, I'd rather sit down and crank out a blog post in an hour than edit a video that is a 15-second video that I'm like, is it even going to do anything?